have ladies that come on and might do a little presentation about cooking. My sister did a presentation on juicing. Today, my niece is going to share some tips about makeup. And then we kind of balance it out. We have some encouragement, some games, entertainment, enlightenment. So it's a mix of all of it, you know, because we still need to be entertained, we need to be encouraged, and we still, you know, need to be enlightened about what's going on and how we can stay safe and be healthy, and take care of our families. All right, as we're all getting set up, I just want to say thank you to the staff at Shine Pediatrics. As we're getting ready to get started, we really do appreciate you all taking your time out this evening to share with our families. All right, and it is about 7:30. I see Dr. Naidoo has turned on his video. And if you can go ahead and come off mute, we'll be ready to start. So I'll start with just a brief introduction. I know I won't be able to share as much as you will be able to yourself, Dr. Naidoo, but I'll just share an introduction from my own personal experience being part of Shine Pediatrics. So ladies, as some of you already know, my family and I came to know Dr. Naidoo when he was with a different practice before he started his own practice. And I was so impressed with the care and the time that he took with us when we would go and see him just for our well visits, and whenever there were any issues where the kids were sick or struggling with a medical issue. And then from there, Dr. Naidoo started his own practice. So we were there, you know, at the beginning. But one of the things that we were struggling with at that time is that my son, who was, I believe, 8 at the time, was having trouble with swallowing, and lots of inflammation in his esophagus. It came to the point where he was only able to take in liquids. He could not chew anything solid. You know, he started losing weight. He wanted to play sports, but didn't have a lot of energy to be able to do that. And so we, you know, of course, went to our pediatrician and, you know, heard people say you need to go to a GI doctor, you need to go, you know, get advice on what to do to help him. And when we did that, we saw that there was a difference in the way that Dr. Naidoo advised us versus some of the more traditional doctors would. And I'll just share this real quick story. One of the GI doctors we saw when we went into the office, we saw kids from late elementary age up to 17, 18 years old who were sitting in chairs with tubes going into their stomachs to get their nourishment. And they had to go there 3 times a week to be nourished that way, because they had the same condition that Monty had, which was eosinophilic esophagitis. When I saw that, you know, we just, you know, we're like, that is not going to be our son's fate. You know, we're not going to just succumb to what the traditional doctors are telling us to do. There's got to be a different answer. And so we really started to pray and, you know, seek the Lord. And we're so appreciative of the way that Dr. Naidoo talked us through what might be going on with his body. And he really helped us to become educated on how we could build his body up and really look at what things that might be attacking his body from the inside, and not just look at treating it with medicines. So just to make a long story short, he recovered. He was able to eat. He's now 16 years old, running track, playing basketball, vibrant athlete. And during that time, he grew tremendously in his relationship with the Lord, because he really just had to say, okay, God, I trust you with what is going on with my body. And so, you know, I just have to say again, Dr. Naidoo, thank you so much for the care that you showed to our family during that time. And then I'll just go ahead and let you introduce yourself and kind of give us some of your background and just why you have decided to practice medicine in the way that you do.
Well, Ms. Thompson, thank you, and hopefully everybody can hear me. Thank you for allowing me to be on this video conference, and thank you for allowing our team at Shine Pediatrics to be on this video conference. I think it's always like it pulls at my emotional heartstrings when I hear about a child like Emmanuel and how he is thriving now as a young man. He's a similar age as my oldest child. Can't believe it's been 8 years. That's a long time. Time flies very quickly. It means a lot too, just to know that the distance that you have come from where you live out in the Duncanville, Cedar Hill area, to come all the way out to Frisco and then to Richardson. It means a lot to many it means a lot to me and to our providers when we have families that travel such far distances. I had 2 families today, one from Louisiana, another one from Houston, that came to see us.
Wow.
I think that what I would tell to the ladies, and even if there's any of their spouses that are on this call today, integrative practice means that we do less in the early years. We allow the human body and how God created us to really take hold in those early years. I think that we do too much in terms of manipulation of creation in those early and formidable years. And I feel like a philosophy of trying to do less and kind of having the wisdom of knowing when to intervene has allowed us to have many more positive outcomes in children's health development. And so I know that many families who are on this call right now may be experiencing different physical or mental ailments and feel like maybe the current healthcare model is not being able to serve them in the most effective manner, or they cannot get the answers that they need. I believe that our team at Shine can give a more positive outcome. As one of my biomedical nurses says, that I think Shine just tries to offer a place of hope. And I believe that we have done a really good job at that. And I think, I'm not the greatest speaker. When we do our meet and greets at the office, there's a provider there. Her name is Nurse Practitioner Tiffany Hamilton, and she probably does a much better job of kind of leading the sheep. I guess you could say I lead, but I kind of do it from a different angle. So I'll probably give the floor to her and kind of have her talk a little bit about the practice and potentially.
Okay. Thank you so much.
And potentially speak a little bit more about the office and maybe articulate to the families on the call a little bit more about what we do. I have asked our providers to kind of not go into depth about the office because we want to be able to save as much time as possible at the very end to answer any questions that they may have. So Nurse Practitioner Hamilton, if she's on the call, I'll kind of let her take the floor right now.
Good evening, everyone. So I am Tiffany Hamilton. I'm a family nurse practitioner. I've been at Shine for right at 5.5 years now. And I love it. It's amazing, to see some of these kiddos who come in with chronic illnesses, all kinds of chronic complaints from eczema to ADD, gut issues, sensory issues, and we're able to really look for the root cause of the problem and help those children. So, we talk about a lot of the westernized medicine. There's a Band-Aid approach where, you have eczema and they just want to put on a steroid on it, knowing that it's going to come back. We don't do that at Shine. We really look for what's going on with the kiddo. We offer genetic testing now, so we can really look at genes and how they play a role into maybe what's going on with the way that our brains are functioning, or, you know, anxiety, depression. You know, kiddos have learning disabilities. So we're really able to just hone in on the root cause of the problem. And so we're able to give these children hope lifelong, you know, not a temporary fix. And so for me, working at Shine, that's just been one of my favorite things, you know, about working there, is that I'm not seeing these kiddos in the office over and over again for eczema, or over and over again for GI complaints or mental health concerns, because we're really able to get to the root cause and help these children. And so it's just an amazing, you know, very rewarding thing to see with these kiddos. And, you know, Dr. Naidoo does, you know, a lot of research to make sure when we're going to do vaccines that we're going to give people, the kids, the cleanest possible vaccine, you know, that you can. You really make sure that it's broken down in a way to where we're not giving these multi-dose vaccines where they're getting 3 vaccines into one. We talk about, you know, vaccinating at a slower pace, so that way your body is better able to accept that vaccine and we can really see how you're going to respond to it. And so there's just a lot of things that I think that we're able to offer at our office that a lot of places don't. And I'll be brief with the COVID thing, but, you know, one thing that really breaks my heart is that the westernized world says, oh, you have COVID, go home, take some Tylenol, drink some fluids, get some rest. We hope you're okay. We're able to really prep our bodies all the time. We talk about supplementation, diet, exercise, and sleep. All of these things that your body has got this innate ability to heal itself if given the right foundation. And so that's something that we talk about all of the time. And so a lot of the patients that I'm seeing in the office now, the parents feel okay about what's going on with COVID, because they're like, you know what? We're doing everything that we can to prep our bodies, to keep our bodies as healthy as possible, to keep that oxidative stress down in our body. So should we get the virus, we should be able to fight it and fight it well, versus us just saying, good luck, you know, take some Tylenol, get some rest. No, we're able to do some supplementation. So that's another thing that I really love about our practice, is that we're really able to give people the tools and the foundation. We like to educate and empower parents to have control over your child's health. We don't tell you what to do, we educate you, and then we give you the reins. And so oftentimes parents will say, oh, they're in for a well check today, but you know, he had a cold a couple weeks ago, but I remembered last time we were in, you told us to do this, this, and this supplement, so I didn't even have to bring him in and he got better. And it's the best thing that we're not seeing these kids all the time for these sicknesses, because we've empowered parents to take care of their children.
So Tiffany, let me ask you a question, and this can be for either of you. What, can you give me an example of, you know, something where a child may have, with a traditional pediatrician, the way a doctor might treat something with medicine versus the way you all would treat?
Sure. So for example, ear infections. Oftentimes if you go to the doctor for an ear infection, they're going to say, oh, you know, here's some amoxicillin, go ahead and take this. Well, something that we know with ear infections, especially in the pediatric population, is that most of those are viral. So you're treating a virus with an antibiotic, which is not going to be effective. We do something like garlic ear drops into the ear to help to get rid of that fluid, to heal the tympanic membrane. Essential oils around the outside of the ear to help with pain, recommendations for chiropractic for some lymphatic drainage.
Thank you. Okay. And I see a question one of the ladies has asked about, and I'm not sure, okay, yeah, she's asking about preventive measures. She's asking specifically about vitamin C and elderberry. Are those things that are good for us and our children to take as a preventative during the epidemic that we're facing right now?
And Ms. Thompson, I think we have Nurse Practitioner Garvey on the call too. She's really good at articulating. She's probably one of our most experienced providers in the sense of number of years of practicing pediatrics. So she can bring a context of what life is like being in a conventional model of healthcare and now being in this kind of integrated model. And I think she does a great job of articulating some of those differences to families. And she can probably also answer about the vitamin C and the elderberry as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, hi there. My name is Chandra.
Hi.
I've been at Shine for about 5 years, and I absolutely love it there. Like Dr. Naidoo said, I do have a lot of years of experience. I've worked in several other more traditional practices prior to coming to Shine, so I do have a lot to compare it to. And I tell parents all the time when I meet them at Shine, there is a drastic difference in the children that we see coming through our doors versus the ones that I would see in prior practices. And I think it's things like Tiffany mentioned. We just start from the ground up. We talk about nutrition and our immune support. We just want to help our families be as healthy as possible. And it's not only the children. We're always also, it's important to keep the entire family healthy. But to answer your question, yes, we use a lot of vitamin C. Vitamin C is an excellent way to support the immune system, either with ascorbic acid just on a regular basis to kind of saturate the body and keep it at a nice level of immunity, or liposomal vitamin C, which is a great form when you're actively fighting an illness that goes directly into the cells and is super powerful. So vitamin C is an excellent supplement. Elderberry is another one that we use quite often. We have to be careful that we don't use it in a child under the age of 1, but our children and adults use elderberry quite a bit. It's also an excellent immune booster.
Would you include vitamin D in that as well? I've heard a lot about vitamin D for boosting the immune system, taking it regularly, and then increasing the amount if you're fighting cold or
Absolutely, yes. We have our kiddos taking vitamin D year round, and we just adjust the dose depending on what time of the year it is. So in the summer, when you can be outside and get it naturally through the sun, we're going to recommend a lower dose. And in theory, there are less germs going around, so we don't have to, be as strong with our immune fighting supplements during that time of the year. And yes, so like for instance, during cold and flu season, we have different recommendations based on age for our vitamin D. And then if our kiddos do fall ill, then we usually say double that dose while they're actively fighting the illness, just to help the body a little bit more during that time. Okay. We also use a lot of essential oils to help. There's some like tea tree oil, which has great antiviral properties. There's one that we use a lot called On Guard that's a protective blend and also is really great for fighting infections. Lots of families right now are diffusing it in the air with all the illness going around. So lots of things that we recommend to help keep our immune system strong and fighting.
Awesome. Yeah, just to piggyback on what you said about educating the family, I remember just becoming more aware of ways that I could take care of my own health. So I would get excited. I have 5 children. So anytime either one of them had an appointment, I was excited because I knew that I was also going to become more educated, even for taking care of my own body. So
oh, that's right. We commonly have parents say, where can I go to get care for myself that's just like this, because they get excited. And but our goal is to keep the entire family healthy, so it works for everyone. But I saw a newborn just this week, and they're new to our practice. They have 2 older children, and they were just so excited just with this very first appointment. And I was explaining just, some basic things, right now, how to keep the older sisters healthy and how to keep the parents healthy so that we can indirectly protect this little newborn. And they were just like, wow, this is so different than anything we've experienced with our daughters in the previous practices. So I guess we do this all the time, and it's just second nature for us. We forget we live and breathe this. This is how we protect our own families, and we forget that it is, you know, it is unique, and some people just don't even know that there's this option and this way of healthcare available.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much. There's a couple questions in the chat. One about black seed oil, what your take is, and also what is the recommendation for inflammation and mucus buildup?
I can kind of talk about the black seed oil and about the mucus buildup. I think before we get into like a lot of the specifics on different types of treatments and conditions, I wanted to get a chance to have nurse practitioner Galai on this call, and she has a lot of experience from being in children's in a you know, more urban environment. I think one of the things that I was very intrigued by and excited about with talking to Ms. Thompson and to the group is I'm always very motivated and eager to talk to families, as I say, south of the I-30 or I-20
Yes.
highway line. And, you know, I remember back in my medical school days when I wrote an essay about why I wanted to become a physician. And one of the things that I wanted to do was be able to offer care to families that have less means, because I know some of the beginnings that where I came from. As I started to become more knowledgeable about the system of healthcare and recognizing some of the limitations that come from a Medicaid type of environment or an environment of more urban care, I began to realize that a practice like Shine Pediatrics could not operate in a Medicaid environment. And there are a lot of nuances to that. There are a lot of legalities to it. But I think one of the main things is that, as you can see with what's happening with the coronavirus, is freedom. You must have the flexibility in healthcare as a provider to practice the way that you feel is the right way to take care of a patient. And right now, with many of the different mandates and stipulations in a Medicaid environment, we would not be able to have the practice that we have right now if we practiced under those constructs. I'll have nurse practitioner Glide kind of talk to you about her experiences at Children's, and then talk about how that experience looks different in a practice like Shine Pediatrics. So, MP Glide, if you're on there,
I just want to say one thing real quick before she starts, Dr. Naidoo. Thank you so much for being in tune with that and for bringing that up. It's huge. I know that for the majority of the ladies that are on the call are in situations where they do have more of that freedom to be able to choose. But we have families, friends, you know, church members who we can certainly impact with this knowledge. And I'm troubled to hear what you're saying as far as that disparity that's there for someone who's restricted in their medical care and not being able to go to a doctor who can spend this time or who is doing the research to help them to stay healthy. So really curious to what she has to say, and just thank you for bringing that up.
Hey, hello everyone, my name's Fanan. So real quickly, I'll kind of tell you on my background. I have been a nurse for about 10 years before I went back to school to become a nurse practitioner, and I worked at Children's during that whole time. I worked at a neurosurgery floor and then in their ICU, and during that time, you know, I saw a lot of just kind of chronic illnesses, lots and lots of chronic illnesses, and you know, just also some really, really sick kids, and just how the traditional model goes about treating a lot of the kids. you know, things like asthma, constipation, just lots of different respiratory issues, and I mean, the list goes on. So I kind of got into this whole integrative kind of model of care once I became pregnant with my first child, and really kind of, you know, dove into a little bit more about just kind of different things like vaccines. That was kind of like the biggest thing for me, you know, especially after seeing a lot of research about how, you know, just the CDC schedule and how it can affect specifically like African American boys a little bit more than kind of, you know, traditionally, you know, just the other children. So that made me kind of led me to Shine. And that's just where, you know, all of that kind of grew for me. Then when I went back to school, I kind of got reconnected actually by Chica. And so just a lot of the things that I see at Shine, the things that we would talk about building, you know, a good immune system from the very beginning, and basic, you know, a lot of nutrition from the beginning, and just really building that good nutrition and a good foundation for your body is really something that definitely you see at Shine. So, you know, I have also a lot of friends that come to Shine, and it's just, there's a big significant difference that I've seen from just kind of, you know, young kids that I used to see at children's, just in the general clinics, and, you know, how we see the kids that come to Shine. They're a lot healthier. You know, they have a good foundation. They're able to fight infections off, viruses off a lot quicker and easier. And so that has really just been really a blessing to see, like, you know, healthy kids from the start and how they're able to tackle these things. And I think kind of what Dr. Naidoo was saying was the restrictions you have on, you know, kind of like the Medicaid. I know they do a lot of like auditing, and, you know, they kind of, you know, you have to go by certain standards. For example, like the CDC schedule is something a little bit more specific that you have to follow that in a certain practice. And so I know we don't actually take Medicaid patients, but we also have a lot of, you know, cash pay kind of advantages to kind of help our patients that, you know, did have Medicaid or any other insurances that are not, that we don't take. And so we kind of accommodate decently priced, I feel. So that's just, you know, a good service that we have for everyone.
Awesome. Are there any things that you, well, let me take that back. I know that you all do a Q&A, I believe it's called, once a month. Is that just for your patients, or is it open to someone who, you know, would not be able to be a patient in your practice, who may be on Medicaid, Medicare?
It's actually open to mostly prospective patients and families. So yeah, a lot of, you know, expectant mothers that are expecting, and families with older children that are thinking, you know, have kind of chronic issues that want to transfer into our practice. A lot of them also kind of attend that, and that's also a good forum. Kind of give y'all a little bit more.
And I don't know if it's something you all are able to address, but I just think about ways that, you know, as we are learning, you know, we have the privilege to be able to choose, you know, ways that we are able to spread, you know, this education with people who aren't able to choose.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is another, you know, passion of mine. And this whole situation with Corona has really allowed us to kind of force the hand in being more innovative about seminars or interfaces like this. So I think if we have more families in the future that want to know about a different model of care, I think that we have the technology to be able to accomplish that in a, you know, reasonable manner. So yeah, Ms. Thompson, I think we can definitely facilitate things like that in the future.
Okay, and I'm still praying that you open an office in Arlington, Mansfield, you know, still one of my prayer requests.
We'll get out there soon.
Okay. So this is a question for you, Dr. Naidoo. I know I've seen some of the things that you have shared, and I think you have a statement on the practice website right now, just kind of about, with the whole talk about the new possible, probable vaccine that will be coming out for COVID-19, and just kind of how we might prepare for, quote unquote, opening up, our city, and the country, and, just ways that you would recommend that we prepare for that. And, how should we, what cautions should we have for when this vaccine comes out and is recommended to, quote unquote, protect us from the virus?
Yeah, I think the major things that I would look at when it comes to any vaccine is obviously what are the ingredients, the excipients that are used, the modality by which it is prepared in terms of how the manufacturer and the scientists want to elicit the immune system. I think that there are different ways that vaccines have been manufactured along the years with an intention of provoking the immune system to have what we would term an appropriate response. So I think if there's any vaccine that comes out for the coronavirus, the first things that I would be looking at is the ingredients, understanding the mechanism of how it's eliciting the immune system, and then understanding what the decision is made by the manufacturer in terms of, is it going to be a once a year type thing like the flu vaccine, or is it going to be something where you would only get it like once every 10 years, or maybe have the capacity to check titers in the blood to look at the response to how you did with the vaccine. I think those are going to be all factors in it. But the one thing that I would tell families that are on the call right now is that when the vaccine comes out, you should not be the first ones to get it for your children. If there's anybody that is potentially a candidate for a vaccine, it might be our patient population that is more elderly or has other sorts of health conditions. But the last population that we would want to be looking at is our children. And I'll just kind of, talk about sometimes the intention behind vaccines, and even in the ones that we do right now, it is not so much that the child is going to become gravely ill from it, but it is more about protecting other more vulnerable individuals in society or in a community. One of the vaccines that has always been an enigma for me is the hepatitis A vaccine, in the sense of its recommendations to be given at a year and again at around 18 months. When I first started in medicine back in 2003, the hepatitis A vaccine wasn't even a mandatory vaccine. It was a vaccine that was recommended in communities where the incidence of hepatitis A was extremely high. And then it became a vaccine that started to trickle into different communities and cities, to the point where the CDC then said, well, we're going to make this a blanket recommendation for all children between 12 months and 18 months, where no child before the age of 5 ever died from hepatitis A. So I always say that the reason that we give the hepatitis A vaccine is not so much for the child, but it's for the grandparent or potentially the parent who's changing the diaper of a patient that has hepatitis A. So I think like trying to educate about what are the true risk factors for that patient to contract that illness and have a very negative outcome, that also has to be taken into context when making a decision about vaccines.
Wow, that's good information.
And then one of the other things, Ms. Thompson, I really want to talk about, I just heard it today again on the news, and we have nurse practitioner in Duquay on the call. So there's a gentleman, I don't remember his name, I don't watch a ton of news, but my wife had it on. And this gentleman talked about, we have made a decision in the United States to have the social distancing, to have the shelter in place across many of the states. And while there might be some proper scientific basis to that decision that has been made, a byproduct of that is that it has created a huge economic burden to many, many families across the U.S. As a result of that economic burden, it has created a huge mental health issue in the United States. There will be people, adults that we know of, that will likely attempt or take their life as a result of some of the economic hardships that they go through right now. And a nurse practitioner in Duke Way, I've known her for a long time, probably since birth. And I think she has a floor with her experience to talk about some of the mental health issues that are happening as a result of COVID-19, but just in general. And I think she can spend a little bit of time kind of articulating that message in what we do at Shine Pediatrics as well.
Hi. Thank you so much for bringing that up.
So I'm Chica Ndikwe, an FNP, DNP, and I'm currently getting my postdoctorate in psychiatry. So I've been saying to many people that after this COVID-19 pandemic is over, the next pandemic is going to be mental illness, for sure. A lot of people have lost their jobs, lost a lot of things, lost their businesses. You're quarantined in the house. You're actually forced to kind of calm down and come face to face with some issues you might not have dealt with. So there's going to be a lot of mental illness after this. So I have been in Shine for like a year and a half, so I've gotten a good foundation about the integrative approach to medicine. And I went back and went to psychiatry. I've done some clinical rotations in VA as well as some of the more integrative approaches. Unfortunately, psychiatry has kind of gone to a lot of med pushing. They push meds and maybe not been talking to the patients or even asking them about their future goals or even recovery. Like, you're on these meds for a lifetime. Working at Shine and learning more so of how to treat from the roots, not putting a bandage over the issue, but kind of actually treating the root issue. So not just treating the symptoms, you know. I'm able to kind of bridge the two together. And a lot of times when I see in psychiatry, there's not really any labs done. There's a huge component of gut health linked to depression, linked to, you know, a lot of psychiatric illnesses. We have the ability at Shine, we have the GX Sciences test. So we're able to look at like neurotransmitters, if your body's, you know, making too much, too little, all that has to, you know, can lead into psychiatric illnesses. Obviously, you know, meds have a place in psychiatry, and, you know, possibly right after this, you know, if people are on the verge of wanting to commit suicide, that'll be a time when you're probably going to use meds. But meds alone is not enough. You have to take a deeper look at the labs, gut health, talk about immune support. Basically what, you know, MP, Hamilton, Garvey have talked about, treating, letting the body heal itself. So making sure the child is eating right, you know, providing themselves with the correct nutrition and all that. So I'm actually kind of going to be a unicorn in psychiatry, because there's not a lot of psychiatrists that do labs or look at gut health. They do specialty testing. Yeah. Basically, here's your meds, let's follow up.
Yeah.
So that's going to be good. When it comes to this specific situation with COVID-19, you know, mental illness is definitely, there's a family component to it, genetic, environmental. And so a lot of us need to start talking to our parents. Like, if they're not healthy, if they're not mentally healthy, their kids are not going to be. So telling the mom, telling, you know, people around you to take care of themselves. At this point right now, you know, obviously what you eat, what you put in your body, there's a lot of access to therapy online that you can get. Everybody's going tele, so you can actually have access to a therapist online, someone that you could talk to about issues, making sure you're healthy, because if you're not mentally healthy, the kids are going to be affected. And a lot of times the kids aren't able to express themselves, so we we kind of think that we're suffering alone and the kids are just fine, they're not noticing. No, they notice. They notice something is different. Even if you have toddlers, they notice something is different. So making sure that the parent takes care of themselves is going to be a huge aspect right now, mentally.
So good, so good. What types of things do you do? And I guess I'll ask specifically about this environment, because I know that your practice is kind of limited to who you are seeing in the office. Do you do consult over the phone, or with the pediatric patients who are dealing with mental health issues?
Yeah. So we've kind of moved to tele. A lot of practices have, just to be able to accommodate more patients. And it's probably going to be a good aspect of the future of medicine, having patients that are in Arlington not having to drive in. So we are seeing patients via tele right now. So you could see us in the comfort of your home. I could see the kids in the comfort of their home, and kind of talk through things. And even if we have to order labs, I could possibly, even if we have to email a rack to the closest LabCorp or to you to print off to go to the LabCorp, we could do all that.
Okay, that's wonderful to hear. And Dr. Naidoo, I know you may have something else to share, but I wanted to ask, and I knew that when I asked you guys to come on, I kind of wanted to talk about health in general, ask some questions kind of about the pandemic that we're facing right now, but also knew that we would talk specifically about your practice. So if you can give us an idea, if anyone was interested in your practice, are you accepting new patients virtually right now, or only seeing your current patients, or kind of what is your intake like right now?
So you know me, Ms. Thompson, from being at Frisco here at Healthy Kids, being one provider, to now being at Shine, and being blessed to have these amazing women here. And then there's a couple of others who are not on the call right now. My heart is always to create access for families to be able to receive this type of care. And so to answer the question pretty succinctly, yes, we will always be available and open to receiving families who are in need. I always say that our practice is a place of refuge and light. We try to be a place of light so that we can shed answers on areas that have not been uncovered by other practices or other healthcare models. I like to say we're a place of refuge because we want to have discernment. When we practice this way, we don't want to shout from the rooftops of all of these positive outcomes, because at the same time we have to understand that there's a healthcare model that could potentially be very envious or have other opinions as to what we do at Shine Pediatrics. But we are always in the business of trying to have that one-on-one relationship with a patient and a family, so we can garner that trust and that ability to connect in like a more, what we call like a patient-physician confidential relationship. But yes, we are always open to taking in new families. And I probably would kind of give the floor to Nurse Practitioner Hamilton to maybe talk about like the whole registration process and what that kind of entails and how to do that.
Okay, yeah, and before she shares, I just wanted to say, we, because of the age of my children and the distance, we did end up moving to a different pediatrician, and I was always comparing and always just like, this is not the way. So I have, within the past few months, started one by one adding my kids to your schedule. And I think I saw on your website that you recommend at least doing the well check in person. And so that's what I plan to do, starting with Monty, because it's worth the drive. They took a good nap when we were driving out there, and we got different things, but it was definitely worth it. And then, maybe have the telehealth in between if there's acute issues that we need to address. But like I said, I've only registered one for now, but I think I will, one by one be adding them because I've missed so much. I think in the visits that I have. I mean, the doctor that we found is good, but it's still not truly an integrative approach to the medicine. So I'll go ahead and put the spotlight back on you, Tiffany.
All right. So if anyone is wanting to join our practice, you can go to our website, and we have a list of the insurances on there that we do accept. We do take all major insurances. The one thing that's really awesome about Shine is that we do accept insurance. You know, a lot of integrative practices do not take insurance because insurance companies don't really recognize the integrative model, but we're able to give you everything from, you know, westernized that you want all the way down to essential oils and homeopathy, and still be able to bill out to your insurance company. So that's really great that, you know, Dr. Naidoo was able to really work that insurance model in so that we can reach more families who maybe otherwise would not be able to come. But on our website, you can also fill out a patient registration form on there if you would like. That way you don't have to do it whenever you come into the office. Also, if you're transferring in, if you have older children or even, you know, young babies that have been seen other places, we love to go ahead and have those records whenever you come in. Vaccine records, other wellness visits, sick visits, anything that you have. We really like to have that. That way we can really get a better picture of what's going on with your child. And then if anyone has a child who maybe is having some chronic concerns, we like to do what's called an integrative visit. So we have you go online, go ahead and register, and then fill out the integrative questionnaire. It is quite a lengthy questionnaire, but it's very beneficial. So that way, whatever provider you're going to see is able to review that prior to you coming in. And then whenever you come in, we're able to just jump right into what's going on with your child versus spending, you know, 30 minutes asking you questions that maybe we could have already read over. And then we can draw labs at that visit if that's necessary, and just really get going with their care. And that visit is a 30-minute visit. So we do allow for a longer time period for that as well.
Awesome. And ladies, if you have one or two questions, if you can put those in the chat. But I wanted to ask, do you all have any family practitioners that you recommend to your patients to see that may have a similar approach to you?
We do. We have a list of other integrative providers, but I think as Nurse Practitioner Hamilton said, we have this unique model of taking insurance and being able to decrease the cost of care for integrative medicine. And so I think the challenge is hoping that a lot of my adult colleagues will develop a practice model that will take insurance as well, that can cut down on the cost for families to be able to receive that kind of care.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Now, would you let me know what your thoughts are about specific questions? There were a couple of specifics in there, and I don't know if you want to address any of those about the inflammation. Just going back through the chat, mucus buildup, sea moss, black seed oil. Any thoughts about those specific questions?
Yeah, I'll kind of talk about just, you know, mucus in general. And I have another provider, MP Gillum, who's kind of in training model right now and a recent grad as a nurse practitioner. And, you know, she understands a lot of what we talk about in terms of the expectorant. We use so much expectorant in the practice to help with, you know, mucus buildup. There's probably other different homeopathics that we use that indirectly have given us some benefit against mucus buildup. But I think probably the most important thing in this day and age with mucus buildup in the state of Texas is allergies, and making sure that individuals are properly evaluated for food and environmental allergies to determine if that is one of the more root or core issues for mucus development. One of the other things that happens in the healthcare model right now is the continuous barrage of antibiotics for every type of infectious condition that comes into the office, and the patient is telling the provider that they don't feel well, and they just get another antibiotic, and they don't feel well, and they get another antibiotic, or they go to urgent care, And the urgent care model is very, big on antibiotic prescription. And what you end up doing is creating more fungal overgrowth. And that fungal overgrowth is what's creating a lot of the mucus production. And nobody ever talks about that. So that's, again, one of the things to think about with mucus. With regards to black seed oil, did some research on black seed oil. Obviously, it's a great omega-3, kind of falls in the line of a alpha-linolenic acid, along with like flaxseed oil and the chia seeds. So I think it has some benefit, obviously for skin health. There's some antioxidant components to it as well. But black seed oil is different from black currant. And black currant, we have a homeopathic that we use, and that black currant homeopathic is for adrenal support or helping individuals deal with maybe very stressful times like test taking, finals, maybe some sort of like psychosocial traumatic event that has happened where the black currant comes into place. And then about the sea moss, I had another parent a while back who asked me about that. And I can't tell you that I'm too knowledgeable about giving a comment on that. Now, maybe some of my other providers may have some information on sea moss and can speak to that, but I don't think that I have enough knowledge on that to speak about it.
All right, just wanted to give a moment if any of them wanted to comment on that. And then the doctor for adults, is that something that we would, current patients would speak with you about if there was? I do see the question here in the chat again, if you had any specific recommendations or?
That would be something where you can reach out to our office through the Contact Us page.
Okay.
Or call the office, and then our front office staff will be able to give you a list of who those providers are.
Okay, no problem. All right, so we have about 5 more minutes with you guys, and then we'll wrap up the call with the ladies after you guys leave. But I wanted to ask you, Dr. Naidoo, what just kind of final encouragement do you have for families as we, continue to be in quarantine and getting ready to go back to normalcy? I'm sure there is some fear out there for, are the instances going to spike? Are we going to, be safe? I heard you someone say earlier that there's not as much worry in those who have been taking preventative measures, for a while, but what encouragement would you give us, just to kind of, move through these next couple of weeks and months?
I would spend hours talking about this.
I know you would.
I think the one thing that I would tell the moms, dads that are on this call is that if you have this mommy instinct or this dad instinct that something is not right with your child, then you need to get a solid answer as to why your child is having the concern that you as a parent have that concern about. I think one of the most frustrating things to me, and I try to talk to the providers about this all the time, is that you want to be proactive about the child's development. So if you tell a parent like, oh, that's normal, that's just, little Johnny, that's the way that he's supposed to be, or that's little, Tamika, and that's the way that it's supposed to be, that's not maybe the way that it's supposed to be, because you as a parent asked me that question. And I think if you have that gut instinct that something is not right, you make sure that you uncover all of those rocks and look underneath them and see if you can figure out what the answer is to that issue. And if you are not able to find out what that issue is, then you have to get to a place of saying, okay, well, is this what the final kind of outcome is for my child? But if that's not the final outcome, if you're not happy with that, you need to continue to keep searching. And I think when you continue to keep searching, maybe you might eventually come to maybe a practice like ours, where we're able to, maybe we don't have the answer right away, but we're going to work with you, figure out if there's another kind of layer in this integrative network of providers, whether it be a chiropractor, whether it be a naturopath, whether it be an energy healer, whether it be some massage therapist, whether it's nutrition, whatever it may be, but that we can see that child have a different trajectory for their development. That is probably the biggest thing that I will share with you all today, is that if you have a child that has some sort of condition and you feel like they can do better than what they're doing right now, then maybe a practice like ours is a place that you need to be.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you so much. And I see that Chika added some comments here to the question about specialization for psychiatry. So thank you, Chika. Well, that's all we really have, Dr. Naidoo, as far as questions. I want to say thank you again, all of you who joined, for your heart, for your passion. It's kind of like you can tell some teachers who are in it for the right reason, you know, and that's the way that I see you guys as health professionals, and even spending your time this evening sharing with us, and Dr. Naidoo, your heart to really educate those in communities that aren't being educated, you know. So I would love to know about what you decided to do in the future, partner with you or whatever I need to do, because I think all of us have loved ones who are in that situation in different communities across the country. So thank you again. Thank you all for your time, and just look forward to seeing all that you guys are going to be doing to make an impact in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and beyond, it sounds like. All right. Well, thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Yay.
Thank you.
Y'all have a good evening.
You too.